Welcome to Buckets, your daily NBA betting podcast presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. I'm Brandon Kravitz, joined by a couple of certified sharps, Mr. Nick himself, Joe Dellera, taking an L tonight. At Chicago Flow, Sean Little is with us as well. We have our best bets of the night. We will at least attempt to deliver those Thursday in the association, a light offering ahead of NBA Cup action on Friday. We have a 3-game slate, and it's not exactly the best, but that doesn't mean there's not money to be made, so we'll see if we can find it. The stars will be shining later tonight, but first, Sean, what did we learn in the NBA on a Wednesday night?
Yeah, we're about 2 quarters away from some guy on Twitter saying, "Are the Thunder better without Jalen Williams?" Like that's how good they look against the Lakers and to start the year. It's been my squad. It was my squad last year. I tried to play a little contrarian and thought they wouldn't take the regular season as serious as they did last year. But this team looks like they're going to rip off 68, 69 wins without any issues whatsoever. So I didn't learn too much. I learned that the squad is the deepest squad in the league is extremely deep, and they take this 82-game regular season extremely seriously, even more seriously than I realized. So kudos to the Thunder. I learned that the best team in the league is better than I thought.
Yep. It was one of the notes that I wrote down as well. Not exactly the most scorching take that you'll ever hear, but it doesn't matter if the Thunder are on a back-to-back. It doesn't matter who's in or who's out. This team is a wagon. I threw a very light wager on the Lakers money line, just thinking, okay, OKC is going to back up a little bit. Luka is the Thunder antidote, and they just got smashed. There is no spot play against OKC. I think that obviously matters who's in or who's out. That don't throw that in the garbage. But as far as spot plays against this team, like Sean said, they just take the regular season too seriously. They're ready to go. They treat it like a playoff game every single night. Joe, what about you? What'd you learn?
Yeah, I mean, kind of to piggyback off of that, just briefly, but that entire Thunder team is just absolutely stacked. And I mean, you have guys 7, 8, 9, 10 on that depth chart that would be, starters on a lot of other NBA teams. So definitely something that's notable there. Yeah. One of the things that I kind of looked at this for today anyway was we've been seeing a lot of back-to-backs because of NBA Cup action. The league has kind of made a concerted effort over the past couple of seasons. No back-to-backs like leading into these NBA Cup games. So any team that's playing in the NBA Cup, they do not. I don't think they ever have it as the second game of back-to-back. It's always at a minimum the first game of back-to-back, and they really are trying to avoid that as well. So we're seeing the schedule stacked up in like a really weird way, and it's something to kind of keep note on, and it's part of what I'm going to talk about with one of my bets coming up. But like you have to kind of look at the schedule and make a determination a lot of times before the injury report is coming out, and you have to kind of look at it and say, which game do I think that this team is going to actually try to win in? Or like, is this, especially if they're a team that has players that don't play in back-to-back. So the New York Knicks, for example, they sat Mitchell Robinson against Memphis Grizzlies. It was obviously then expected that he was going to play against the Orlando Magic. It can also go the other way where somebody played, like Mitchell Robinson had played against the Memphis Grizzlies. The immediate thought would be, well, he's not playing tonight. Like he's not going to play against Orlando. So just, something to keep in mind with some of these teams where there's back-to-backs, and you might have to try to read the tea leaves and say, well, which game are their main players going to play, or which game are their players that are maybe a little bit older that generally don't play in back-to-backs? Where are they going to play? How are they going to play? How is this team going to play? And you're going to be able to get additional CLV, I think, on some of these spots by just assessing what the team generally does, coupled with what you think they're going to do. So just keep in mind the schedule and all the back-to-backs early on in the season.
And it's one of the nice things about betting into the NBA Cup is that the way the league has scheduled these games and how seriously they want their teams to take the cup, I think it's one of the more predictable nights of the week. because of the way the schedule lines up. So if you are somebody like Joe is trying to get ahead of the market on some of these roster moves, the injuries in and out of the lineup, but if you don't want to bet into that, bet against it, whatever, wait until Friday night. That might be your night to do that. Of course, Joe, you and I locked in on the primetime game tonight, Magic Knicks. I was slacking with Brian Fonseca, one of our Buckets buddies, and he was like, I don't want to say that this team is better with Paolo out of the lineup. He got injured. Unfortunately, that was my 3-star play from last night's episode. So hopefully you guys got the injury insurance on that one because he was ruled out after the first half. But I don't think the team is better without Paolo. They're better with Paolo and Franz on the court together, but they're fine when one of them has to miss time. That's the luxury of having two players that essentially do the exact same thing. I don't know if they're ever going to reach their upside together, but you can bet in terms of the bettable angle to this. You can still bet the Magic as long as one of those two guys is the anchor to the team on any given night, and then take advantage of the line adjustment. Because if, let's say, Friday night, the Magic are playing the Nets and Paolo Banchero is announced as out, of course, the line is then going to become shorter because Paolo affects the line. I don't think the team is going to operate that differently, especially now. That's the beauty of having Desmond Bane, is that he can get to the cup and he can facilitate. He had 8 assists tonight. He's leading the team in that area. That's why you bring a guy like that in. So I think from the bettable perspective of it, this is a team that you can still trust in the market as long as one of those two guys is out there on the floor. And then long term, we'll see how that plays out. Have you made any determinations on that, Sean, when you watch this team as to how they operate with both versus just one out there on the floor?
Yeah, for sure. And I was actually going to ask you this question. I think personally, sometimes they cater a little bit too much to Paolo when he's on the floor offensively. I think we have this idea that they need to create Paolo into this superstar, and he's the superstar of the Magic. And then it gets them out of rhythm. It gives it the cohesion isn't always there because we have to make sure Paolo gets what he wants and needs on a possession to possession basis. And I think when they don't have to cater to that, you saw it later in that game tonight. Desmond Bane, for the quote-unquote new guy that's a part of the squad, was downhill all day long, and he was going downhill to get others involved. He's supposed to be the guy that's spotting up and shooting. When Paolo's on the floor, it seems like everything needs to be him, the focal point, and it didn't feel like that, or doesn't feel like that a lot of the time when he's off the floor. So that's the only thing I would say is I think they cater too much to him in a lot of different ways when he's on the floor, and it affects overall how they play team hoop. I'm a big Paolo fan. I like Paolo, his game, and he's a young, pure bucket guy that does a lot of good things on the offensive end. But team ball-wise, it seems like sometimes they cater to him a little too much in Orlando. What do you think? To kick it back to you on that, BK.
Yeah, it's ironic because I don't disagree with that. I think that the ball tends to stop with him. He's got that, not LaMelo, he's got that Carmelo quality to him. And I think he wants to be that star. I think he sees that within himself, and sometimes he is. And then it's kind of like folks out there listening to this, like they hit just enough parlays to think that every night they need to have a parlay in the system. It's like you're just good enough at this to trick yourself into thinking that that's the way to do it. But team ball is always going to work better in most scenarios, but certainly with the way that this Magic team is built. But they were actually playing that style before Paolo got hurt. I was very much keen into him doing exactly what you said they usually do, which is just let Paolo dominate the basketball, because I had his over 23.5 points. Joe had his over on field goal attempts. We wanted Chucker Paolo here tonight, and he was facilitating early on. He was dumping passes off to Goga Batadze and Desmond Bane, and he was getting all of his teammates involved. They built a lead with Paolo on the court, and I think, to your point, if he would just let the game come to him a little bit more, they'd be better off. Can they do it with Paolo and Franz long term? We'll have to wait and see, but I think there's something to that. Joe, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the ball always just feels like a little sticky at times, or, like sometimes you'll see it. It's like, oh, he's a couple assists away from a triple double. All of a sudden, that ball is flying around the court. The team looks a lot better. I do think that, there is a level of redundancy between him and Franz, but it could be a blessing in disguise if he does miss a little bit of time, just because of some of the things you were mentioning about Desmond Bane. I think that it's taking him a little bit of of time to get comfortable in this offense, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that Orlando just straight up doesn't have dudes that shoot threes. They just don't do it. And I think that everybody looked at it and they go, oh, Desmond Bane, he's going to come here. He's going to go from shooting like 6.5, 7 threes to like taking 13 threes a game. Just not what he does. That's just not the way that he operates. He can on certain occasions, but that's just not his preferred method of ball. And we kind of saw this where, when Morant was out and you'd see Desmond Bane really run the offense, he was effective with it. He was a good distributor. He could get in the lane. He could get to the rack. And I think that maybe if Paolo's not in there, you do see a little bit more of an opportunity for Desmond Bane to get comfortable. And then the team can say, oh, yeah, like this is what he can do. He changes some of the rotations. Maybe it makes things a little bit better for them. So just something to kind of keep an eye on. But I do think that the Desmond Bane part of this could make this a blessing in disguise. We have seen this with other teams where new guy or like a star player, so to speak, gets hurt. There's a new player on the team. They all of a sudden get a lot more usage, a lot more comfortable in the offense because they're not trying to then fit in. There becomes a vacuum that needs to be filled. And when you have that pedigree, when you have that skill level, you can naturally fill that void. Now, when the star player comes back, coaching staff is much more confident in you. They understand what you are or are not good at. And then I think that you have a legitimate game plan on how to integrate all of those pieces together. Having this happen this early in the season, obviously not good for them for like NBA Cup or, maybe even potentially for standings if Paolo does miss extended time. But it could be good for the long-term future of this team where they all start learning how to integrate, how to play with each other.
Yeah, really quick. How about
volume
this
for those new guys? What's up?
Yeah, and really quick, how about this? I think the Magic can really go to an entire different level if Paolo plays a lot better off ball and creates different things that way without having to pound it. If he becomes a lot better without the basketball, just movement wise as well, they could really go to a different level just because of all the talent and the length. And I like their depth and the rotation guys that they bring in off the bench. So, yeah, sometimes it just feels like, okay, it's Paolo's turn. We're not going another possession without Paolo getting a shot up.
On the other side, I'm not going to take anything away from the Knicks losing. They've been running so hot. It just feels like they were due for an off night. They didn't get up a bunch of threes. Part of that is Magic defense, but also it was just a bad night for the Knicks. So two things can be true. The Magic needed that one. They never win in prime time. It's something that's discussed often in my area. But the Knicks have been absolute juggernauts at home. They scored 130 in 3 straight games. Yeah. So of course you're going to cool off.
First home loss.
Yeah. I mean, that's the NBA. You're not going to score $130 every night.
Unless you're maybe the Utah Jazz.
Well, we'll talk about that in a second. We're going to get to our best bets on a weirdo Thursday slate in a moment. But first, an important message from the mayor of Buckets, Matt Moore.
The Buckets podcast is sponsored by DraftKings Sportsbook. And in partnership with DraftKings, Buckets listeners get a great offer. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 back in bonus bets if your bet wins and 3 months of NBA League Pass. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings daily fantasy sports and have the shot to win cash prizes. To get started, use promo code BucketsNBA when signing up with DraftKings. That's code BucketsNBA when signing up with DraftKings for 3 months of NBA League Pass and $300 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. The crown is yours.
If the NBA was having any ratings issues, they won't anymore. Not after Thursday night. Raptors, Cavs, Pacers, Suns, Hawks, Jazz. If that doesn't get you to your TV set, then nothing will. But hey, there's money out there to be had. So what we're going to do is we're going to go 3-star, 2-star, 1-star, because we don't want to force plays here. We thought about it. We could if we needed to, but we're going to go 3-star game, 2-star game, 1-star game, and we'll give plays within that. Are we in a community agreement here that the 3-star game of the night is Raptors Cavs on the second night of a back-to-back? This Raptors team has been a really fun watch so far this season. Any pushback on that, Sean?
Maybe a little bit, actually. I'm not super sold on that game. I kind of want to go to Utah and watch those boys. They've been a lot of fun. Utah Hawks. But Atlanta's also wishy-washy as well. But I think that could be a really good game. The number says so. Atlanta favored by 1.5. Totals 233.5. I think that could overall be the more fun game, because right before we got on, and as Joe alluded to on what we've learned, the back-to-back situation for Cleveland could get a little icky depending on who goes, and then that game won't be as interesting. I think Utah is just like, let's have fun, let's play offense, and we have 6 guys that can score 15-plus points, led by Markkanen scoring 30. So I will go against the grain. I'll say the most interesting game is Jazz Hawks.
You feeling all right?
Yeah.
You know, I can be easily influenced, and my 3-star play before we started going live here was on this game. So I've actually changed my mind. I think I'm with Sean now.
I think it could be a really, really hectic, fun, back and forth game. I think we can all agree that the 1-star game is the Pacers Suns. So
that game's booty.
we all agree there. But yeah, I think Utah is fun to watch. Like, give me Utah Blazers 3 nights a week. Fucking locked in. I'd watch that every single night.
Dude, all I care, honestly, I'm gonna do a little victory lap here, but I had Collier double, and I had him 10 and 9. Everything, it was 32-1. It was so fat. So happy about it. So I'm always down to at least bet on a Jazz game. I don't know about watch it, but I'm down to bet on it.
Okay. Well, I think it zooms to the top. Then I'm not hearing a lot of disagreement on that. I'm going to take the Hawks -1.5. I get that Utah is rolling right now. They're everybody's new darling. 7-4 ATS, 5-0 against the spread at home. But this is an overreaction. Unless Atlanta is about to bench multiple starters here, which, believe me, is always a possibility. Utah put up 152 points a couple of days ago. That was against a G League team. This is a really friendly number where I get a playoff caliber team against an overrated, bloated Jazz team coming off of a monster win where they score 150 points. That is such a fadeable opportunity. I'm not going to get my hand caught in the cookie jar. I've made a couple of bucks betting on the Jazz this year, but trees don't grow to the sky. You're not going to get rich betting Utah. Give me the Atlanta Hawks. Second night of a back-to-back. I don't care.
Yeah, it's hard to argue. I think it's just going to be a competitive game. I think this is the toughest game on the 3-game slate with the back-to-back situation. Listen, I understand the NBA is trying to avoid the NFL on Thursdays, but there's no need to have 50 games on Wednesday and then 1 or 2 on Thursday every single week. Like, I get it, but like help out the hoop fans a little bit here. They did the same thing last week, and I believe like 2 of the 3 games were also terrible. So
it was one. Sean,
it was
one game,
and it was bad,
Thursday.
wasn't it? I'm trying to think of who it was last week, but yeah. So that's
tough. It was the Suns, and I don't know.
Yeah.
It was the Suns and
an
the Clippers.
Awful game.
Yeah, I know, because I did an episode on it, and it wound up way more entertaining than the Thursday night game. By the way,
I will say the best thing you can do right now is if you got a significant other, plan your date nights on Thursday nights right now during NBA Cup season, because that's the best night. Like you're probably missing like 2 games, 3 games. They're questionable at best. Your best game is maybe the Hawks versus the Jazz, and then NFL too. Like those Thursday night games are not particularly good, like ever. So plan your date nights on Thursdays. That's our number one tip of the week here. That's actually our 3-star play.
That's 3-star advice right there.
Pop that
That's
slugging
great.
percentage way through the roof.
Do we want to move on to the next game, or does anybody else have a play on Hawks Jazz before we put this one in the trunk?
I mean, I'll be looking at Collier, PA. I doubt we're going to get another 11.5, but I'll definitely be able to look out for it. Keep an eye on the Action Network app, see if I add something in there.
Let's move on to the now default 2-star game of the night, and that would be the Toronto Raptors and the Cleveland Cavaliers. I was taking a look at the over when it was at 238.5, which was like 15 minutes ago, and it's already up to 240.5. We're seeing some news that Jared Allen may miss. Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, you would think that those guys are back. I doubt Darius Garland plays, but the Cavs they've been on an overrun, and these are two teams that play at a really fast pace. It's such a high number. It's hard for me to get there, but I might. That's the only play I would have on the game. Perhaps we could look the way of a prop, a star maybe on the Cavs side. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, so I like Donovan Mitchell over 32.5 points. I think that it's entirely possible that Jared Allen does not play in this game. I mean, talking about some of the conversation that I started the show off with looking at some of these spots, saying, are they going to play in both sides? Or are they going to maybe be limited to a certain degree? Cavs are on a back-to-back, but they sat out Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, and Evan Mobley, played DeAndre Hunter, played Jared Allen in this spot. So I do wonder if maybe they rest Jared Allen here, which opens up a little bit more usage for Donovan Mitchell. Not that Jared Allen's like the highest usage player in the world, but I think it does matter. And then Darius Garland, I think, twisted his ankle a little bit, or no, big toe contusion last game. So only played 19 minutes. I think it's entirely possible maybe they just sit him out for this one too. Donovan Mitchell then gets a natural uptick in his usage, in his minutes, in his role. Toronto has done a halfway decent job of limiting some of these like lead players, or so to speak. But I will say that, they did give up big games to, like, Tyrese Maxey had a big game against them. And I think that Maxey is probably the closest in terms of some of the more recent players that have gone against them to Donovan Mitchell. And he had a 38 PA game against the Raptors. So Mitchell's averaging 35.8 PA per game this season. This line's at 32.5. I think that it's not necessarily accounting for all of the factors here with Darius Garland's injury. I think that they are going to want to make sure that he's okay, and then the potential for Jared Allen to maybe even sit as well. So that can make this game a little bit closer, and we go from there. So just something to keep in mind. So I like the Donovan Mitchell over 32.5 points plus assists.
Yeah, that might be a better way to look than the over, because if the over is going to hit at 240.5, Donovan Mitchell's going to be playing a big role in that. Anything on this one, Sean?
No, I agree with a lot of what Joe said. I think when you're looking at Donovan and anyone is missing and he's on the floor, so depending on who goes on this back-to-back, he always picks up the slack. He any excuse for him for them to lean on him, especially offensively, he always is keen and up for that. So I'm not going to argue with Joe on Donovan in that spot. You never know who he played video games against during the afternoon as well. So he's been getting motivation from a lot of different spots. But if guys are out because of the back-to-back and he suits up, depending on if Garland goes or not, he will pick up the slack and they'll go to him and he'll try to pour it in. So I do like that spot.
And then our lowly 1-star game would be the Pacers, the 1-10 Pacers. What happened to the great Pacers? Of course, we know injury related, free agency related. They're not the same team they were a year ago. They're 1-10. They take on Suns team that is mysteriously 6-5 on the year. Sean, what about this one? I have nothing for this game. This one I will be avoiding like the plague.
All right. Well, this is my 3-star. So, the 1-star game of the night, but this is where I'm going to find a little bit of paper. My 3-star play is the Indiana Pacers team total over 113.5 versus Phoenix here. Phoenix is probably feeling a little better than they should. They've won 4 in a row. They got a big win tonight against Dallas, 123-114. But the teams they've beaten over this 4-game stretch are the bottom feeders offensively in the league. Clippers, the Pelicans, the Mavs. Now, Sean, I know the Pacers are one of the worst offensive teams in the NBA. I get that, but they have the rest advantage here. They're not coming off the back-to-back. They're going to play the squad that is coming off the back-to-back, going to catch them with a little bit of tired legs. And I think the defense is just getting a little more credit than they probably should. If you go back for, I don't know, so say a couple of weeks throughout the season, they gave up 118 to San Antonio. They gave up 118 to Golden State. They gave up 133 to Denver. That same team they just beat up in the Clippers, they gave up 129 earlier in the year. I think this defense is getting a little too much credit because no one wants to back a beat-up, rudderless Pacers squad. But I will take them off with the rest advantage against the team in the Phoenix Suns, who are 26th in the league in turnover percentage. So they are susceptible to turning the ball over. The Pacers are still playing up and down and fast. They're top 10 in pace still in the NBA with that roster missing a ton of guys. I think this number at 113.5, you can get 112.5 minus 121 right now at DraftKings. I'll tick it up and take the 113.5. It should be right around that minus 110 number when it releases. This is a good spot to buy low on the Pacers offense against a team coming off a back-to-back that has been playing the bottom feeders on the offensive side in the NBA. And they'll probably come in feeling good off 4 wins, and they won't take the Pacers as seriously as I guess they should be defensively. This is going to be a higher scoring game. I'll take the Pacers here. Team total over 113.5.
The last laugher the Pacers were in, which was the last game they played against Utah, who I'm fading, 128 points for them, but they don't often surpass this number. So that is the buy low that Sean is talking about. Bold men do bold things, and Sean Little is a bold man. Joe, any feedback on this? And he's muted all of a sudden.
I pulled a Matt Moore. Look, I hope the Pacers get there for you. This team has just been they've honestly just not even really been a fun watch. Like it's just been brutal basketball. Hopefully, TJ McConnell is back. He's on some sort of minutes restriction. They were a little unclear about it, but I do think that having him back at least helps. I think it helps run some of the offense. Nemhard's back. So I do think that there is a little bit more juice here for Indiana coming soon anyway.
Yeah, and last game of a road trip as well. They play. This will be their 4th straight game on the road, and then they then get to travel back home for a game Saturday versus the Raptors. So hopefully Carlisle could get them up to close out the road trip, then get home and try to string together a couple solid games. Forget about winning a ton of games, but it's just some solid performances for the Pacers.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention one of my favorite plays, a sprinkle on the night for our 3-star game between the Jazz and the Hawks. Vit Krejci. Let's have a Krejci party. 3+3s. This is probably going to come in at around plus 220. Yeah. Curious to see what kind of number we get on that, but he's done that twice this year. He made 8 in their last game. He has attempted 19 threes in his last 2 games, and he takes on the Jazz, who don't defend anybody.
And they definitely don't defend the 3-point line. So this is a great play, honestly.
Yeah. You know what? Forget the sprinkle. We're going half a unit on Vit Krejci, 3+3s against the Utah Jazz. Don't forget to sign up for Action Pro. Get real-time pick alerts from experts like Brandon Anderson, Sean Little, Joe Dellera, Matt Moore, our entire Action Network team. Plus, you can access our pro projections powered by Sean Kerner and our predictive analytics team. Just go to actionnetwork.com/pro. Get $20 off the annual price with promo code BUCKETS20. So don't miss out. Best bets at the best prices. Visit actionnetwork.com/pro. Use the promo code BUCKETS20. Get $20 off for a year of Action Pro. Before we get out of here, it is time for our DraftKings parlay. We each have our favorite play of the night, and we will parlay them together over on DraftKings. Joe has Donovan Mitchell over 32.5 points and assists. Sean Little, Pacers, team total over 113.5. So I guess we have to be in bed together with this one after all. And I will take the Atlanta Hawks -1.5 against the Utah Jazz, who are playing way over their heads. That is your Thursday night NBA parlay presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. That's a wrap, folks. Shout out to the crew, Joe and Sean, a great show. Thanks to our producer, David Payne. If you want to tail these bets, look for the quick slip link in the podcast and video description, or head to actionnetwork.com/bet now. Shout out to DraftKings. We'll see you next time. And until then, let's get buckets.